A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, representatives from government ministries, departments, and agencies, all the partners that are working with Africana initiative Uganda, the team leader, Drugs Africana, members from other civil society organizations, school administrators that are here present, dear student leaders, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name, as you've heard, is Aggrey David Kibenge, Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. That ministry also takes care of matters of young people. It is an honor to address you today during your third National Prefects Conference centered around the theme drug abuse effects on mental health. Permit me to appreciate the organizers, the crusaders of this very important agenda, Drugs Africana initiative, and all the partners that are working with them to ensure that we secure our future. And we secure our future through the young people, and especially with you, the student leaders, at the forefront of this particular effort. Mental health, which is undeniably the cornerstone of human well-being, often does not receive the kind of attention it requires. The global escalation in mental health conditions is made worse by a number of factors, and these may include the natural calamities, pandemics, like we've just recently had in the case of COVID-19, conflicts. These just make it worse. They are not the cause for the mental health challenges that we experience. The statistics have been shared of how grave the problem of drug abuse and its impact on mental health really is. And I won't go into this. I actually thought Dr. Basangwa had started very well unpacking this subject. And I hope in the course of your deliberations, he will be afforded time to take you through the details or to interact with you as you ask questions that he can ably respond to. But adolescents like yourselves are grappling with mental health conditions, and these are driven by a number of factors. And I'll just highlight a few of these. Experimental purposes. Some of you do things for experimental purposes, and in the process, you find yourselves entangled. I remember at your age, when I was in school, what Dr. Basangwa was talking about of marijuana. I remember we had some students in school who were known smokers of marijuana. And I think the one time, out of curiosity, I wanted to try. I didn't like the feeling, and that was the end of it. But some of the other unlucky ones, from trying, they become enslaved. But initially it starts as a small urge. You want to experiment. The other could be a history within the family, or even society, the wider society. Let's not only look at the family, but also society. There are a lot of things that are happening around you. There are a lot of people that may be frustrated, may be desperate for one reason or another. And some of these, a lot of things they do will rub onto you. And if you are not careful, if you are unlucky, you might get entangled. The issue of drugs has been mentioned. There are issues of loneliness. There are issues of peer pressure. The groups, the friends that you have around you could very easily determine your fate. That's why they say, show me your friends and I'll tell you your character. Because to a large extent, birds of the same feathers as you hear will normally fly or flock together. So your friends, the people you choose to advise you to spend most of your time with, will many times influence what you do. But there is that feel-good feeling as well. There are some people who think that by taking drugs, they help them to momentarily, temporarily escape from who they are. And they feel much better, but I'm using the words deliberately, that this is only temporary. Within a short time, you'll be down to earth. You'll be back to your old self. I always tell the story as a student of literature. Those of you who know that proverbial bird that jumps from the ground onto the anthill and it starts singing, and somebody called it a stupid bird. Jumping from the ground onto the anthill and you start singing only gives you temporary relief, because the fact is the anthill is still part of the what? Of the ground. So you are still on the ground. So even by taking drugs that temporarily lift one's spirits does not change that person much. It is only a feel-good factor. But there are also those other issues that have been highlighted. As Dr. Basango was unpacking, the worst case scenario are even cases of suicide, which is one of the leading causes of young people, 15 to about 29 years of age. When you come down to earth and you realize that what you have been pursuing is air, some people get frustrated up to that point. In Africa, Uganda is ranked among the top 6 nations with the highest prevalence of depressive disorders. And Minister of Health has done quite a good job in this regard. And I do recall a screaming headline 2 or so years ago in 2022 during the Mental Health Month, when Minister of Health disclosed that up to 14 million Ugandans are struggling with mental illnesses, and the national prevalence rates as high as have been clarified. Now, this situation has even been made worse due to the post-COVID-19 challenges that Ugandans are grappling with. Although mental disorders span all age groups, as you've heard, young people, particularly girls and women, bear the brunt. And I'm emphasizing this. My Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development is also responsible for addressing the needs of the vulnerable categories of people. And girls, women have been identified amongst the most vulnerable groups of people. But not every woman, not every girl. Because I know those of you who are in this room who have had an opportunity to go to school, those of you who are empowered even in school, you are leaders, I wouldn't categorize you among the vulnerable girls. You are empowered. That's why I liked these words that have been used here. Educate, inspire, and empower. So the girls in here, the boys in here, I want to believe by the mere fact that you are leaders, you are empowered, more empowered than even your colleagues. And I'm emphasizing this because beyond this seminar or these annual seminars, there is a bigger task that all of you are going to carry with you back to your schools, back to your communities, back to your homes. The interplay between drug and alcohol abuse and mental health is profound and concerns everybody. Adolescents who engage in substance abuse often experience a range of mental health issues. I've met many parents whose children have become wasted because of this problem of drugs. Children that were born, grew up with a lot of promise, children in whom their parents invested heavily have gone to waste simply because of the problem of drugs. So I want to extend my gratitude to the Hapana Initiative Uganda for spearheading efforts to combat alcohol and drug abuse among youth. Your collaboration with school administrators and prefects in embracing and advancing this initiative is very commendable. I want also to commend the participating schools, the administrators in these schools, and you, the students. I believe that we can build a critical mass in saving our most precious resource, which is the human capital. Don't undervalue your effort. Don't look at the numbers in this room alone. Each of you has capacity in your schools, with the young people that you interact with your siblings. Each of you has capacity that can help us build a critical mass to fight against drug abuse and the challenges that have been outlined. I want also to appreciate the Ministry of Health and all the institutions under the ministry that have joined hands with these crusaders to give prominence to this crusade. Through our community structures, as a ministry responsible for gender, labor, and social development, we too provide psychosocial support across all age groups. I urge you to encourage your peers who are in need of counseling or professional help to visit the community development officers. Within this whole country, at every level, there are community development officers. There are probation and welfare officers who handle matters of children. All those are part of the technical structure and our ministry through whom we can provide support services, and we do provide support services to the young people. But at the same time, I'd like to encourage you within your schools to set up peer support mechanisms. When you go back to the school, in addition to being a student leader, there are those responsibilities that are clearly mapped out for you. But I'm also saying, after this interaction here, we would want you to go back to the schools and set up support teams, peer support mechanisms to your colleagues. If you detect, and I'm sure by the end of today, your capacity to detect those that are vulnerable and are likely to succumb to this problem, your capacity to detect will have been enhanced greatly. So when you go to school, set up mechanisms for identifying who is likely to fall into the trap, and don't allow him or her to fall into that trap. Support these people. I want to appeal to the administrators to also provide a support mechanism to the children. I was in education for quite some time, and there is a practice in some schools I know where children are grouped around a teacher who provides support as a parent. And if we had those kind of structures in schools, it would be possible for us to help those that are in need of support. And we've told you, a person likely to be attracted to use of drugs can be identified. There are students among you in school. Most of the time, they are lonely. Most of the time, they are avoiding groups or joining colleagues. They have several pressures they are dealing with. Until somebody engages them and identifies what the problem is, you will not know until this person will be attracted to try drugs to give him or her that feel-good factor. So we must set up a mechanism of prevention and early identification of these kind of people. To address the issue of abusive environments that contribute to mental illness among children and adolescents, as a ministry, we are also disseminating parenting guidelines nationally to curb violence at home, school, and at community level. Part of what makes children detest what they see at home is violence. Either violence amongst the parents and the members of the home, or violence against the children themselves, which makes home undesirable, unwelcome to the children. And if they ran to school and found similar conditions in the school, then those are good candidates for the problem we are talking about today. So we must make the homes safe for the young people. We must make school safe for the young people, but also community. Some of us were lucky. We grew up at a time when a child was considered property for the entire community. And everybody was concerned about the other. These times we are so much to ourselves and nobody cares about what is happening next door. You might not even know who is in your neighborhood. So that is part of the problem. That care, societal care, community care and concern seems to be lost. And we must deliberately work towards recreating it. We have, as a ministry, responsible for young people, for the women, for the families. We have also established platforms for reporting abuses and accessing services virtually. In this technological age, all you need is to call 116. We have what we call the Child Helpline, Sauti 116. If you call that number where there is a case of abuse, you'll always get response. We operate a 24-hour system. We have offices in Chireka where we have established this. We have now linked the Child Helpline to reporting abuses of gender-based violence. Gender-based violence. And this is mainly violence against women, violence against children, against the girls. So this can be used to report. And we also have the Safe Poll mobile application. These platforms facilitate the reporting of violations and provide information on handling mental health challenges as well. The Safe Poll application also disseminates information on sexual reproductive health, HIV/AIDS, gender-based violence, and mental health. For those without smartphones, there is a short code. Those with smartphones, you can do *260#. *260#. Or you can call 116 and you'll get somebody on the other end of the line attending to you. Additionally, with UNICEF, I think about a week or so ago, we launched the Mental Health and Psychosocial Chat Box, which provides free counseling services, and we have linked this chat box to our Child Helpline, the 116. So if somebody has a mental challenge, an abuse, drug abuse problem, we've talked about violence against children, we can all use that facility to get help. We are making available experts to receive the calls and immediately engage with especially the young people. Adults too are free to call, but we have mainly targeted the young people who are part of your constituency as well. So as you return to your schools and communities, I implore you to disseminate information about these free services. No individual should suffer in silence when significant resources are dedicated to providing them these services. I recall, just in November last year, His Excellency advising the young people, and in his words he said, the youth must reject drugs and alcohol abuse to secure a bright future for themselves and our nation. The development of Uganda rests on the shoulders of a healthy and sober generation. I wanted also to quote the book of Proverbs in the Bible, which says, Proverbs 21:17, that whoever loves pleasure will be a poor man. Man here could mean woman. Whoever loves pleasure will be a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not be rich. Those are the words of wisdom in the Bible, in the Proverbs, which are cautioning. Some of these things we run too early are destructive. They will distract you from pursuing your goals in life. As leaders, you must exemplify integrity and responsibility, abstain from alcohol and drugs, as these are primary conduits for mental disorders. In the same vein, avoid premature sexual activities to prevent teenage pregnancies and early marriages. And as I did say, if you are a slave to drugs, both female and male, then you'll find yourself entangled in a number of these things we are talking about. And this could hinder your educational pursuits and ultimately destroy you forever. So as I conclude, I want to thank you for accepting to be part of this important crusade. I want to urge you to set firm targets for yourselves and to pursue these targets unapologetically. Ladies and gentlemen, if you choose to be a good student, you owe nobody an apology for that. If you choose to say no to drug abuse, you owe nobody an apology for that. If you choose, some of you are going to be called bookworms, some of you are going to be called antisocial. If they label you that, you owe nobody an apology. So that's why I'm saying, whatever you choose for yourself, you must be unapologetic about it. Just like whatever choice you make, you take responsibility for the choices you make. If your choice was drugs, then take responsibility for the choice you've taken as a young person and as a human being in your own right. Before you're a son and a daughter of somebody, you're a human being. And at some point, you are going to have to make choices in your own right as a human being. So when you make those choices, don't refer to your parents, don't refer to your siblings, don't refer to your friends. Make choices that you are ready to stand by. Create communities, create friends of your likes, of people that meet your description, that meet your values. Those are the kind of friends you should build around you. And as student leaders, my final message is, as student leaders, aim to create a better society. Because that's what distinguishes you from everybody else. If in a school you are 800 students, you are 200 students, there's a difference between you and the rest of them. You are no longer simply part of the group. You're a torchbearer for the others. So as a student leader, we expect you to be the pace setters. You are setting the pace for everybody else. You are modeling exemplary behavior and conduct for everybody else. That is the difference and what sets you apart from everybody else. So you can't be like everybody. If everybody has a problem, if everybody is entangled, as a student leader, you must stand aside from the group. So I'm looking at you as torchbearers, as people that are going to lead the crusade. In my student days, I was a student leader. I'm sure many of you belong also, because all students belong to the board of students called Uganda National Students' Association. I was one of the early leaders in that Uganda National Students' Association. And I remember our motto we selected when we were forming that organization was, we struggle for liberation. We struggle for liberation. And this is an organization of students, yes, but led by student leaders in all institutions in this country. What were we talking about as liberation? Was liberation from all societal evils. They used to talk so much about backwardness, about ignorance, about disease. And I feel that motto still applies even in our fight against drug abuse. We struggle for liberation, to liberate the student community, to liberate all students of this country from drug abuse. So my message to you is, as you go back, please be true leaders to the others and let's champion this cause. I now take the honor, the singular honor, to officially declare your third Prefects Conference officially opened, and wish you very fruitful deliberations.
Wow.
I say this for God and my country.